I didn't mean to stare. But when she bent to pick up the bag that split open on the sidewalk, I saw her fingers tremble, just slightly, before she steadied them again. There was something about that moment, about her, that made everything around us blur. The late sun hit the glass of her apartment building, flashing warm gold across her hair. She wasn't the kind of woman you could just glance at. You noticed her, like gravity. Her voice, low and unhurried, carried the kind of calm you only get from people who've lived enough life to stop pretending. "Could you?" she asked, nodding toward the rest of her groceries at the curb. "Yeah. Of course." I didn't tell her I'd already been walking her way. The paper handles cut into my palms as we climbed the narrow stairs. She went ahead, the faint scent of something, lavender, maybe, trailing behind her. The sound of her heels on the old wooden steps matched the rhythm of my heartbeat in a way that felt too loud for how quiet the hallway was. At her door, she turned, a little breathless from the climb. "You didn't have to carry all of them." I shrugged. "Didn't seem right to leave you struggling." Her mouth twitched into something between a smile and a sigh. Struggling. That's a word I know too well. I didn't know what to say to that, so I set the bags on the counter inside. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee and rain, windows open just enough to let the cool air in. A mug sat half-finished on the table, lipstick faded on the rim. "You live alone?" I asked before realizing how it sounded. Her eyes flicked toward me, sharp, then soft again. Mostly. Mostly. The kind of word that sits between truth and avoidance. She slipped off her coat, draped it over the back of a chair. "Thank you, really. I didn't expect help today." "You looked like you needed it," I said. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, just thick. She leaned on the counter, fingertips brushing the edge, watching me like she was deciding whether to say something or let it hang. Then she said, "Actually, there is something else I could use help with." Her tone changed. Quieter. Measured. I looked up. "Yeah?" She stepped closer, eyes not leaving mine. "It's heavier than groceries." For a second, I forgot how to breathe. My hand was still resting on the counter, and hers moved, not quite touching, just close enough that I felt the warmth of her skin. I tried to play it off. "What kind of heavy are we talking?" Her laugh came out small, almost embarrassed. "You'll see." She turned toward a hallway lined with framed photos, people, places, years I wasn't part of. I followed, slower than I meant to, because her nearness had already done something to my chest I couldn't name. Halfway down, she stopped. Looked back at me. There was a faint shimmer in her eyes, not tears exactly, just something unspoken. "I should warn you," she said softly, "I'm not as strong as I used to be." The light from a nearby window hit her face, and for the first time I noticed how tired she looked beneath the composure, like she'd been holding something heavy for a long time. Before I could answer, a sound came from deeper inside the apartment, a door creaking open, slow. She froze. Her hand found mine, tight. "Wait," she whispered. And everything in me went still. The sound came again, the faint creak of another door, but when she exhaled, the tension in her hand eased. "Old pipes," she said, half smiling, though her shoulders stayed stiff. I nodded, pretending to believe her. She moved toward a small room at the end of the hall, motioning me in. It looked like a study, stacks of books, a lamp still on from the morning, papers scattered like they'd been left mid-thought. "This," she said, resting a hand on a heavy wooden box against the wall, "is what I meant. It's full of old photo albums and things I should have thrown out years ago." I bent down, testing the weight. "Feels like a lifetime in here." Her mouth curved. "It is." When I lifted it, the effort sent a strain through my arms, and I felt her hand steady the edge near mine. Just that, her fingers close enough to brush skin, but something shifted in the air. Neither of us spoke while I carried it to the coffee table. She stayed close, maybe too close, her breath brushing the side of my neck when I leaned forward. I tried not to react, but I did, every nerve in me aware of her presence. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You remind me of someone." I looked up. "Someone good?" She didn't answer right away. "Someone kind. Someone who used to ask too many questions." Her gaze lingered a beat longer than it should have. There was something heavy in her expression, the kind of loneliness that doesn't announce itself but lives in the corners of everyday life. I sat on the edge of the couch. "You said you live mostly alone?" She hesitated. "My husband and I separated years ago. My daughter's at university now. It's just quieter than I expected." I nodded slowly. "I know the feeling. My place still smells like the last people who rented it. Guess that's a different kind of empty." She laughed softly. "You're too young to talk about emptiness." "Maybe," I said. "But you'd be surprised how early it starts." That made her look at me, really look, like she wasn't sure if she should feel amused or seen. The silence stretched, and for a second I thought she'd step back. Instead, she reached to adjust the album on the table, her hand grazing mine. The touch was small, accidental maybe, but it sent a pulse through both of us. Her breath hitched. Mine followed. She started to pull away, then stopped halfway, fingers still close. "You should go," she whispered, not because she wanted to, but because she had to say it. "I can," I said. "If you want me to." Her eyes dropped to my hands, still resting beside hers. I didn't say I wanted that. Neither of us moved for a long time. The light outside had dimmed, and the room fell into a quiet that hummed between us. When she finally stood, she reached to touch my shoulder, just once, light, almost apologetic. "Thank you," she murmured. "For what?" "For not pretending this doesn't feel different." She turned toward the hallway before I could answer, leaving the scent of her perfume in the air, faint, but impossible to forget. And I realized I'd never wanted silence to last so much. A week passed before I saw her again. It was evening, the kind where the sky looks bruised and tired, and I found myself outside her building without meaning to. My hands were empty this time, no excuse like groceries or favors. Just the stupid pull that made me ring her buzzer anyway. Her voice crackled through the speaker. "You again?" "Yeah," I said, trying to sound casual. "I had your tote bag in my car." A pause. Then the sound of the door unlocking. When she opened it, she was barefoot, hair tied up, wearing an oversized shirt that probably belonged to no one but memory. The smell of something simmering, garlic, olive oil, drifted from her kitchen. "You didn't have to bring it tonight," she said, but her voice softened around the edges. "I was nearby," I lied. Her eyes gave the kind of look that sees right through lies but doesn't punish you for them. "Then come in before my neighbors start talking." Inside, the light was low and warm, like her apartment had decided to protect its secrets. She stirred the pan, back turned. "Hungry?" I wasn't, not for food anyway. "A little." "Then grab plates," she said. "Top cabinet." When I reached above her, my arm brushed her shoulder, just a second of contact, skin to fabric, but it pulled her breath in sharp. She didn't move away. "You do that on purpose?" she asked, quiet. "Do what?" Her eyes flicked toward me, unreadable. "Forget how close you stand." I wanted to answer, but a sound cut through, a phone buzzing on the counter. She looked at it, froze. The screen lit with a name, Mara, work. She silenced it quickly, but not before I saw the photo, her and a man, maybe from years ago. "Ex?" I asked. She didn't answer. Just someone who doesn't know how to let go. There was more she wasn't saying. I could feel it hanging in the space between the buzz that stopped and the quiet that followed. She turned the stove off, wiped her hands, then leaned against the counter. You shouldn't be here this late. Do you want me to leave? Her lips parted, but the words stalled. She looked at me, that long, searching kind of look that starts as hesitation and turns into something dangerous. I stepped closer before I could think better of it. Say it, I murmured. Her breath trembled. If I say it, it'll be real. We stood there, a breath apart. The world felt too still, the clock ticking loud, the window rattling faintly from wind. Her hand brushed my wrist, fingers grazing the pulse. I could feel how much she was fighting it, whatever line she thought she couldn't cross. I'm twice your age, she said. I know. Her laugh cracked, raw and quiet. Then why are you still standing here? Because you haven't asked me to move. For a second, she almost did, leaned in, lips barely apart, but the phone buzzed again, sharp, cutting through everything. She flinched back, heartbeat visible in her throat. I can't, I took a slow breath. Yeah. I know. But neither of us moved. The air between us was too charged, too alive. She closed her eyes. This is how mistakes start. I almost told her that some mistakes feel worth making. Instead, I just stood there, close enough to feel the warmth off her skin, both of us pretending to wait for something to pass, though neither of us really wanted it to. It rained the next time I saw her. The kind of rain that made everything slow, traffic, breath, decisions. She opened her door already knowing it was me, hair loose, sweater sleeves pushed up, eyes tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. You're soaked, she said, but didn't step aside right away. I didn't plan to come, I said. But I couldn't stop thinking, don't. Her voice was firm, but her hand gripped the edge of the door, knuckles white. Don't say that. Why not? Because I already am. The door opened fully, slow, like a confession she hadn't meant to give. Inside, the storm filled the silence between us, soft thunder, the tap of water against glass. She went to close the window, I followed, without thinking. When she turned, we were too close. I could smell rain on her skin, that faint scent of something floral she always wore. Her hair brushed against my cheek as she reached past me for the latch. You shouldn't keep showing up like this, she whispered. Then tell me not to. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes were wet but steady. You don't understand what you're doing. I laughed under my breath. You think I don't know what this is? No, she said. I think you don't know what it costs. That silenced me. The sound of rain filled the room again. She exhaled, the breath trembling as if it hurt to hold in. I've already been through this kind of fire, she said quietly. I don't have the skin for it anymore. I reached out, hesitated, then brushed a strand of hair from her face. My fingers caught for a second on her temple. Then why aren't you moving away? Her eyes closed. Because you're not. She took a step forward until the space between us vanished. My heartbeat tripped over itself. I could feel the warmth of her through the damp fabric of my shirt. You're shaking, I said. So are you. Her hand came up, touched my jaw, tentative, almost curious. You have no idea how wrong this is. I don't care. Her thumb traced the edge of my lip, slow. You will. I caught her wrist, not to stop her, just to keep her there. The pulse under my thumb jumped once, twice. Her other hand landed against my chest, fingers curling in the fabric like she needed proof I was real. Something cracked between us then, the restraint we'd both been holding onto too long. She drew in a sharp breath, leaned closer, and I swear I felt the brush of her mouth before she froze. A sound cut through, the faintest knock. We both went still. Who is it? I whispered. Her eyes darted toward the door. My daughter's home early. Her hand slipped from mine like water. We stood there, hearts in our throats, breath still tangled in the air between us, one move away from something we couldn't take back. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "It shouldn't feel this alive." And I had no answer that wouldn't have ruined everything. The knock didn't come again. Just a pause, a shuffle in the hall, then quiet. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. "She didn't hear anything," I said. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "You don't know that." We stood frozen, inches apart, as the rain softened outside. Her eyes darted to the window, the clock, anywhere but me. She looked like someone trying to rewind a moment that had already gone too far. "I should have told you something," she said finally. The way she said it made my stomach tighten. "Told me what?" She turned away, hands gripping the edge of the counter like she needed something solid to keep her upright. My daughter, she's seen you before. Outside." I blinked. "When?" "The night you brought the groceries up. She was coming home late. She thought," her voice faltered. "She thought you were someone else." "Someone else?" She nodded, slow. "My ex. He used to wait outside when things got bad. She still gets nervous when she sees a man hanging around." I stepped back, suddenly aware of how it must have looked, how I must have looked. "You thought I was him too?" "At first," she said. Then softer, "I wanted to." That landed heavy. "So this was, what? A mistake?" Her head snapped up, eyes sharp with something like panic. "No. God, no. That's the problem." She came closer, hand trembling as she reached for me, then stopped just short. "You remind me of him before he stopped trying. You listen. You look at me like I'm still worth looking at." The words hit hard, raw. I couldn't speak. I just watched her hand, still hovering in the air, caught between distance and surrender. Her breath shuddered. "But you're not him. And I'm not who I was back then. This," she gestured between us, "it shouldn't be happening." I stepped closer anyway, until my chest brushed her shoulder. "Then tell me to leave." Her hand lowered, fingers brushing against mine, once, barely, like testing if touch would make it worse or better. "You wouldn't listen." "I might." "No," she said quietly. "You wouldn't." The tension shifted, no longer about what we wanted, but what we were risking. The silence stretched, filled with the sound of the storm dying outside and our own uneven breathing. Then her phone buzzed again. She didn't move to answer it this time. "Is it him?" I asked. Her jaw tightened. "No. It's her. She's asking why your car is downstairs again." That broke something in the air, fear creeping in where heat had been. She looked at me like she was memorizing my face before erasing it. "You should go," she said. "If she sees you, I'll have to explain something I don't even understand yet." I didn't move. "If I leave now, you'll pretend none of this happened." She hesitated, then stepped in, close enough that her breath hit my collar. "I'll try," she whispered. I reached for her wrist. "And if I come back?" Her pulse jumped under my fingers. "Then it won't be pretending anymore," she said. The words hung between us, soft, fatal, the promise and warning tangled together. Outside, the rain had stopped. Inside, it felt like the calm before a choice neither of us could undo. The next night, I didn't plan to go back. I told myself I'd stay away, that space would make sense of things. But near midnight, I found myself outside her building again, same streetlight, same quiet hum of the city pretending not to watch. When she opened the door, she didn't look surprised. Just resolved. Her hair was still damp from a shower. She wore a soft sweater, sleeves too long, eyes darker than usual, like she already knew this was the night something had to break. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I know. Then why are you?" "Because you didn't tell me not to come." That made her laugh, but not like before, no teasing in it, just something fragile trying to hold itself together. She stepped aside. "Then come in. Might as well finish what we started, whatever that means." The air inside was heavy with the smell of rain-soaked air and coffee left too long on the counter. Neither of us sat. Neither of us looked away. She spoke first. "I haven't felt this in years." "What?" I asked. "Terrified," she said. Then, quieter, "alive." I took a slow step closer. "You can't have one without the other." Her hand came up as if to stop me, but her fingers only brushed my chest, resting there instead. I could feel her pulse through the touch, fast, uncertain. "This will hurt," she whispered. "Then at least it'll mean something," I said. Her eyes lifted to mine, sharp, searching, as though looking for a reason to walk away. Whatever she saw made her falter. "You're too young to carry what I'm still running from." "Maybe," I said. "But I'm here anyway." The silence between us thickened, full of everything we hadn't said. She reached up, fingertips grazing the line of my jaw, slow, deliberate, trembling slightly. I leaned into her touch before I could stop myself. "Every time you look at me like that," she murmured, "I forget all the reasons I shouldn't let you." I stepped closer, until our foreheads nearly touched. "You don't have to forget," I said. "Just stop pretending you don't want to." She closed her eyes, and for a heartbeat, we just breathed, her breath mingling with mine, her hand gripping my shirt like it might anchor her. Then she spoke, voice breaking on the words, "If I let this happen, it won't stay simple." I never wanted simple. Her lips parted, just enough to draw breath against mine. The world shrank to the space between us, a half-inch of air holding back everything we both knew was coming. Then, finally, she moved. Not forward, not away, but into a kind of stillness that said more than either choice could. Her forehead rested against mine. "You make me remember who I used to be," she whispered. "And who's that?" "Someone who still believes it's okay to want." For a long time, neither of us moved. The rain started again outside, soft and steady, and we stood there breathing in the same rhythm, two people who had finally stopped pretending they didn't understand each other. When she pulled back, there was no goodbye. Just that look, quiet, unguarded, certain, that said we both already knew what we'd chosen. Morning crept in quietly, gray light spreading through her curtains, touching the room like it was afraid to wake us. I was sitting on the floor, back against her couch, half wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of her shampoo. She'd made coffee but hadn't drunk any. It sat cooling on the table between us. Neither of us had said much since the night before. There was no need to. Some things settle without sound. She moved first, pulling her knees up, hair falling over her face. "You stayed," she said softly. "I didn't want to leave before the world decided what this means." She smiled, tired but genuine. "You think the world gets a say?" "I used to," I said. "Now I'm not sure." The rain had stopped sometime before dawn. Outside, the street was still wet, glinting in weak sunlight. The city felt slower, gentler, like even it knew something fragile had been decided in this small apartment. She leaned back, her eyes tracing me the way people do when they're memorizing, not the details, but the feeling. "You make everything sound simpler than it is." I shook my head. "I think maybe it's only simple when it's real." For a long time, she said nothing. Then she reached out, fingers brushing mine, hesitant, like she was testing if the world would fall apart for it. When it didn't, her hand slipped into mine completely, a small, sure gesture that felt bigger than anything either of us could have said. "You know," she murmured, "I spent so long thinking I was done feeling things like this. Like the part of me that reached for someone else had just gone quiet. Maybe it was just waiting for the right noise, I said, half smiling. She laughed, quiet, genuine, with that rasp that comes from holding back too many words. You and your timing. I'm sorry about that, I said. She shook her head. Don't be. You showed up when everything else stopped showing up. We sat like that for a while, her hand still in mine, her thumb tracing small circles against my skin. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, it had turned into something almost peaceful. When she finally spoke again, it was barely above a whisper. You'll go eventually. Maybe, I said. But not today. She leaned in, resting her head against my shoulder. I could feel the warmth of her breath through my shirt, steady and calm. Then today, she said, I'm not going to be afraid of this. I turned just enough to press my lips to her forehead, slow, certain. Her eyes fluttered closed, and for the first time, she didn't pull away. Outside, the light grew stronger, washing the walls in gold. Inside, we stayed close, quiet, alive in a way that didn't need explanation. Whatever came next, we'd already chosen to stop running from it. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?